Okay, so first of all, I want to just do a quick recap of what the 3 doors actually is and what it means. So basically what the 3 doors are is they are, the first door number 1 is, are you open to learn? Door number 2 is, are you open to use? And door number 3 is, are you open to share? And generally, if we were to have create a names list where we are, listing out everybody that we want to approach, if we lead with who would be open to learn how to take care of their family naturally, that typically opens up a whole realm of possibilities to us. And then those people will come to a class. And after that, they come to a class, then we invite them to use the products. That typically is through some sort of enrollment process. So we would say to them, hey, is this something you'd like to take advantage of, or something like that? And then we enroll them in doTERRA, and they start to use the product. And then afterwards, and that leads to a business or a membership overview. And then the membership overview has a section at the end of it where we ask a person if they're open to share. And that's when we introduce the business side of doTERRA. All of this is awesome, right? And that works really, really well. So the question is, and I actually want to open this up to the Diamond Mastermind here. Hit *5* to raise your hand. But what I want to ask is, when do you lead with door 3, if ever? And why do you do that? So when and why would you lead with door 3? And then how? So if you have some insights into this, hit *5* to raise your hand, and we can discuss this. Also, so Rod, I'll ask you straight up. When do you lead with door 3?
Well, I think the first thing to remember, at least from my perspective, is that the business itself is also one of the major values that we offer. And so I keep that in mind. There's ways that I can help people. One can be with wellness and improving their life and things like that. And then the other side is the leadership benefit that we offer, or the income benefit. And so I view both of those things as a product. Normally,
major value proposition.
Yeah, it's a major value proposition, and most people are interested in another way to make income in their household, and so it can be a very effective. It can be a very effective way, and so I start by just being keenly aware of openness, and I've been really. I've grown a mastery, I guess, in sensing openness in people and being able to figure that out quickly. So, for example, I put a Facebook post out about 6 months ago or so about my 5th year anniversary in doTERRA, and I talked about the journey, and I had mentioned how far I'd come along in doTERRA and what it's done for my family and things like that. And then somebody made a post that said. Hey, if you ever want to know where to put all that money, you can always send it to me. And I thought to myself, now most people would have just taken that as a stab, somebody who's just jabbing at me. But I heard it as openness. And so I sent him a private message, and I said, hey, I can teach you how I did it. And he responded back in a private message and said, I really need to know how to do that. And then of course I said, how about Tuesday at the time that we set up? And so I ended up getting an appointment in which he was extraordinarily excited about building a business. Now the thing about the individual that responded is he had been using oils, so he had already gotten into that space where I already knew that he was open. But as far as my initial approach, it was he had a business opening. Mm-hmm. Now the irony is, and this is what I've noticed is that individual is not really engaged with us much at this point, and so one of the caution signs that I've had about it is not that it isn't an effective way to lead, to lead out, and not that people aren't interested in it, but I've noticed that it can be more difficult to keep people in it.
I think that's because when people come into doTERRA through the 3-door process, and they start with door 1, it starts with the love of the product.
Right.
And the love of the product is what keeps them around, because
Right.
because when we all know how hard it is to build the business, you just start to think, okay, this is hard. This is harder than I thought. And if you have a real so-so relationship with the oils and what they can do, then a lot of times that doesn't hold on to you through the hard times.
Right. I remember there was an individual, a partner friend of ours, yours and mine, that I had talked to early on when I first joined, and I wanted, I was hoping that he would want to be part of our team, real business guy, that kind of thing, and then as we went on, I had kind of introduced him. I did introduce him to the comp plan first, and then I started to gradually get him, try to get him interested in oils and things like that. And then later on, he never did join with us, but there was a point in which he was kind of mad at me for not inviting him directly, and he said, "Why?" He goes, "Why didn't you invite me? And how come you didn't extend it to me?" And I said, "Because you didn't like the product." And he was little, and then he said, "Well, you didn't give me much of an opportunity to like it." I mean, that was the early days when I put like 6 drops of peppermint in his water and asked him to drink it. He had heartburn for gasping for air. Don't do that, by the way. And but anyway, he didn't have a positive experience with the product, and he was constantly communicating how he didn't believe that the product worked or things like that. But he also believed that the product wasn't a necessary part of the business. And I had to really consider about what kind of culture I wanted to develop inside the team. As far as did I want people that exhibited a passion for the product and had strong business interest and desires, or did I really want to just try to move motivation through?
It's an interesting question, because when you think about it, in most network marketing companies, when we say most, it's almost all.
Right.
They lead with the opportunity. They lead with door 3. That's how they do it. And the people that they, however, that's also why the retention rate's 13% in the industry.
Right. I believe that's a strong factor of it.
Right. I think it is too. But however, there still are multimillionaires in network marketing who lead with door 3.
Right. Exactly.
And
so you can't really argue it.
Right. And so it's not like
it's not like it's good or bad.
And so when you were saying you want to control the culture, it's interesting because there is a culture in network marketing that tends to be a little bit have a negative perception, where it's all about the money and it's all about those types of things. And so some of the dangers with leading with door 3, and we could probably even, if any of you have any comments on this as well, part of the dangers that we have with leading with door 3 is that it can lead to a culture that's very money centered. And again, it's not that money's bad, and it's not that look, I like the lifestyle that we're living right now.
I do too. I'm definitely sold out on
seriously
on the income potential. There's no doubt about it.
And I could talk to people until I'm blue in the face about how awesome it is. But to your point, it does impact the culture a bit. So let's open this up here. We got Alonto Mangandog. Alonto, you had a comment about, I believe we asked the question, when and why would you lead with door 3? Go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I lead with door 3 when the conversation leads to consider. So the typical conversation that you have with like people that maybe you meet randomly or just kind of like on a like first time basis starts with occupation normally, right? So like, what do you do for a living? And that type of conversation. So when I have that type of conversation with people, for the most part, it leads to like that aspect of how do you make money? And when I'm led to like that task, that's actually when I lead with the opportunity first. If that makes sense.
Okay, so you're going to have to get a little bit more specific with me. So when you're talking to someone, just in passing, or like when you're, or like, so in just normal conversation, if someone starts asking you about what you're doing for an income, that's when you lead with that?
Exactly. So we're on our way to leadership right now, and we're on our way to the airport. So for some way or another, I'm going to be sitting next to someone that I've never met before, right? And like, let's pretend that that's you, Seth. So I'm going to be like, hey, Seth, what do you do for a living?
Right. And I'm going to tell you I'm a dentist or something.
Okay, you're a dentist. And as far as like your hobbies, what do you like to do for fun?
Snowmobile.
Snowmobiling?
Yeah, love
so
it.
do you get to do as much of that as possible with the current work that you do?
Well, not as much as I'd like to do, but it allows me to do some things, yeah.
Okay. Would you like for that to change or to get better?
Of course. Why not?
Well, I can show you how if you're open to it.
I see. So you're actually what you're describing then is you're actually going out looking, prospecting for business, people that are open to the business.
Yes.
But on the other hand, what I was expecting from you was for like if I'm sitting on an airplane with you and I just go, hey, where are you going? And you tell me you're heading to a leadership retreat or something, for what? And then that typically leads to, is that what you do also, or do you typically lead people down a conversation like that?
I lead the conversation wherever it needs to go.
Yeah.
So if the conversation goes towards like maybe discussing like health issues, because with every person that you talk to, they're going to talk to you about the most pressing problems that they're probably going through in their life right now. And that's the beauty about what we have with doTERRA, because we offer it from all aspects of like life when it comes to troubles that we have, from health to emotions to financial, to the whole gamut when it comes to doTERRA being able to provide solutions for people. So when I'm pressed with or offered the opportunity to present like the door 3, then I lead with it. But if I'm presented with the opportunity of door 1 or 2, then I go with that.
Right. Okay.
I listen to like the conversation. I listen to like whatever information that people give me, with like that ability to be able to listen and propose whatever door fits the situation.
Yeah, and I think what you're describing, Alonto, is there's the anchor wisdom is seeking openness. And Rod just talked about that a little while ago too. And that is an art. It's an ability to see and perceive where there is openness. And so when you're discussing with people and talking to them, sometimes people are open to one of those things. I want to also make an observation here as well. The 3 doors of openness is this method where you start with, okay, who would be open to learn, and then you get a lot of people. There's going to be a high percentage of your names list that are at least open to learn about the oils, and then who of the people who come to a class, all right, who of these people are open to use, and then of the people who are using the product, okay, now who's open to share. Now, one of the reasons that we've actually went down that path of using the 3-door method is partly because it appeals to the masses. It's a way to get people who are normally not open to network marketing to be open to network marketing. On the other hand, because you're slowly opening those doors in sequence. But there's another thing that the three-door method accomplishes, and that is that it takes the pressure off of the new person who's scared to death to talk to people about network marketing. Right? I mean, that's a major reason it works, is because when people are just gripped by fear because they can't pick up the phone because of what they think other people are going to perceive about them. Like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to call this person because when they find out I'm in network marketing, then they're going to they're going to think less of me. And so when we say, well, hey, look, just focus on door number 1, when they just focus on that, then it removes a lot of that fear and anxiety about what people think of them. Along the lines of, when it comes to those types of those concerns, about the perceptions of them doing network marketing. Now, go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I inquire openness about the opportunity is the whole idea of structuring my organization. Because if I know someone that, say, is interested in the oils and learning about them and then maybe using them, you only have like a certain time frame window when it comes to where to put that person in your organization. So when I seek openness when it comes to the opportunity and present that, I have a better idea and where to put that person in my organization, vice maybe like my front line or somewhere in my organization where they may need like an elite leg or an executive leg or something like that.
So it sounds like part of the key here, Seth, is that we become such a master of the 3 doors that that we can universally ask the invitations, the 3 separate invitations, that we have a mastery of them. And that when we're thinking, hey, are you open to natural forms of wellness? That's a natural thing that's inside of our mind. And the same thing, are you open to the idea of creating an income with doTERRA? That's the same idea. These 2 questions, when you have mastery of them, you can interchangeably use them very quickly, I believe. And so as you master the process, then the doors become more of your tools rather than the process itself.
So let's talk. So I want to delve a little bit deeper into this, and I'm going to ask the same question. This is directed to the diamonds on the call. When and why do you lead with door number 3? When would you do that? When is it appropriate to do that? And I'm gonna I'll just throw out something that's obvious while we're waiting for people to raise their hands. But it's I lead with it when it's the pressing thing in a person's life. So just like if someone was struggling with their health in some regard, then I might lead with the product in that situation because it gives me an opportunity to find something that can meet that need. But other times, people, when I know they're struggling financially or something like that, I can try to meet that need. Courtney Moses, what are your thoughts on this?
It's just right along with what you're saying. I find that when I lead with door number 3, it's often because I know of the financial situation that the individual is in, or they're the type of person that has the skills and attributes that would be extremely successful in this, and the type of person I'd want to raise my kids around and be in a long-term, business relationship and friendship with. So those are the 2 times that I would lead with door number 3. I had this happen just over the weekend. I met this lady. One of my friends actually lost her 4-month-old baby to SIDS. And at the funeral, I met her sister-in-law. And her sister-in-law kind of just started talking to me. And she never asked me what I did. She actually was asking about my children because she realized my kids were adopted, and she struggled a little bit with infertility. And so we kind of just started talking to each other about these common foundational things that have happened to us in life, right? And then I happened to give my friend an aromatherapy kit to help with the emotions that her and her family are going through at this time. And her sister-in-law saw that and said, "Wait a minute, you do essential oils?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Do you make a lot of money with this?" And I said, "I do well." And she goes, "Just straight up be honest with me, you make over 6 figures." And I've never told anybody what I've made before like this. And I looked at her and I said, "Yes, I do." And she goes, "We have to talk." She's like, "I get paid a measly $10 an hour to babysit some people's kids." And I said, "Why do you do that?" She's like, "Because I need help financially." And so we sat down and had a talk, and now she's joining my team and wants to do this. And so it was one of those things that, even though she didn't know what I did at the time, she's the type of person that we hit it off really quick, had a lot of common things in life and experiences, and there was an absolute need there for her to get things changed as she's raising 8 children.
Right. Again, I mean, to kind of just keep along with the theme that we're talking about, you saw the openness there, and when the openness was there, it gave you an opportunity to go there, and it made sense, right? And I mean, I think, isn't that kind of the message that we keep on hearing? It's if you understand the 3 doors well enough that you can be flexible in meeting the needs of the person that you're talking to. Now, yeah.
I want to point out one thing with this too, Seth, because I struggled with this for the first couple of years, that I felt like there had to be an appropriate time and place or situation to bring this up, right? So 3 years ago, I would have thought, "Are you freaking kidding me? You asked someone to join your business at a funeral?" Mm-hmm. Right? But the reason why that works in any time and place is because you did speak that openness. And so I just think that's an important thing for people to understand, that there's not a magical time or place where this happens. It can happen anywhere, as long as there's that openness that's there.
Right. I carry the business overview with me all the time. It's always in my little bag for that reason, because the moment that the income conversation comes up, I really like to show people the potential of having a doTERRA business, and a lot of times that changes their mindset right away.
Yeah. Jacqueline Child, what are your thoughts on this?
I just wanted to point out something. I hope this doesn't derail the conversation, but what you're saying, all of you are saying about approaching someone about the business if they need financial help, I totally agree with that, but this is one thing I've noticed, is we all build the business differently. And I remember when Rod came to Washington and he did a training with my team, and he said, "You don't spend more building a business than you're making. If you're making $300 a month, then go ahead and spend $300 a month." And I think that kind of mindset is really important when we're considering going to people who have no money and telling them, "Hey, I'm going to help you in a financial, way." And then if we said, "And here's the diamond kit," that would just turn them away quickly. So I think that we kind of need to set an example for them. At this point, those of us who are making pretty good money, we can spend a lot on our business because we are making a lot of money. But even we have to be a little careful, because we need to make sure that this business is something that someone who needs financial help could actually build it without, taking out a large amount of debt and feeling an even bigger crunch financially. So I just wanted to, I think that's really important. That advice Rod gave, I've always thought was very, very meaningful when you're dealing with people who are in a bad way financially but want to build themselves out of it with this business.
Cool. How do you lead with the business? Do you ever lead with door 3?
Yeah. Well, all the time, because people ask me, they know we do well. And so at this point, they bring it up before I even do. I've had people say, "Oh, I never have anyone talk to you about the business." Well, if I teach a person, it's almost always the conversation goes to the business, and it's generally them leading.
Yeah, and this.
I probably put little hints in and things like that, maybe I'll, I might say something like, "Yeah, this is really a big part of our income," or, I don't know. I'll say little things like that, and then they'll ask, and then that will kind of trigger a question about that. So at this point, every person I meet, even before they use the oil, generally because they've brought it up more than I have, the financial opportunity does, come up.
Yeah, so let's.
But I think there is a time to lead with opportunity, and I think you just kind of learn. It's really interesting. Like with mom, it's like they're a super busy, crazy, stressed out mom. Like you never lead with a business. That's the worst you need to do. They will join you because of the opportunity. That's why they're joining you, not because they have any extra time on their hands. Although every once in a while you'll see a mom who really is stressed out and wants a little break from her kids, and she loves to have an excuse of building a business. So that would be a time when you could bring up the business pretty quickly, but it really is just on an individual basis and, kind of not forcing it if it isn't forced. If it doesn't just present itself, it's best to go with the product, I would say, first.
I think Jacqueline's comments fit really well into the idea of openness, seeking openness, and just really mastering the 3-door concept so that you can hear and see and feel openness, on all 3 levels.
Right, because if they're not if they're not talking, if they're not bringing it up, right, or something along those lines, then it's wise to go with the normal 3-door method. It just is. There's wisdom in that. It keeps people open longer and accomplishes. I mean, I'll never forget the time when I went over to your house and I said, "Oh my gosh, I got this guy over in Atlanta, and man, he would be perfect." And I called him up right there with you, and I led with door 3. And immediately, because I led with that opportunity, he said, "Well, what do you have to offer me?" And he was discussing me paying him a salary to build a business.
Right. Yeah. He was a professional network marketer.
Yeah. And so he's like, "So what are you going to offer me over and above what the compensation plan offers by itself?" Mm-hmm. And the thing that's so funny is that I know that he and his family had health issues, and I could have led with door number 1. And had he done that, I would have given him samples, and he would have had a good experience. And he would have went, "Oh man, I probably should consider this business side of this because the product is so fantastic." And so, I mean, I have certainly shot my foot when I've shot myself in the foot when I've led with door 3. On the other hand, I do know that there are times when it is appropriate and the right thing to do.
Right. Well, I think the key here, Seth, is that the flow is still accurate. The 3-door method, the flow is accurate. It's the speed at which you find out if the doors are open. Like, for example, I can be in a business conversation in minutes with somebody by still leading with, "Hey, are you into natural health? Is that an area you're even interested in?" And and that can very quickly end up, do you ever see yourself teaching others and earning an income by teaching people about natural health? Now I'm still exploring the doors quickly, even in the first conversation, but I'm still categorizing or getting that mindset right into the categories that we need to, and because I think ultimately here's the thing I think that most people. Looking from the outside in, there's professional network marketers, and there's people that build teams for a living, like that individual that we talk to, and then there's people that have an emotional heart connection to the mission and cause, and so I think it's a fine art form of mastering the 3 doors and being able to explore that openness so that you have a highly committed person that is interested in the business for the purpose of doing something great in the world. And those people, you can't get rid of them. I mean, they never leave, right? Because what we're doing is so darn amazing.
Right.
And but whereas if somebody is just money motivated only, meaning they just had to make income and this was just a viable way to do it, if that was the sole reason or interest, the minute it gets hard, then pretty soon you're competing with a job or mowing lawns
or another opportunity. Any
right.
other opportunity. Even if we lead with door 3, they get excited about the opportunity and they engage in that way. If they don't, at some point have a major conversion, like a conversion to the cause side of doTERRA, the wellness side of it, then they can never really. It's not. I don't. Do you know any people that are just killing it in DoTerra that don't embrace that side of it eventually?
Well, I know one of the major leaders used to really focus on the opportunity side, and I think we had even heard rumors before, whether or not this is true, but the rumor was, hey, you can dump the oils down the toilet.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. The opportunity is so awesome. In that culture had gotten so that they actually ran into some roadblocks and eventually had a shift to a mission focus because they lost momentum. And I did notice that happened in our team for a while. We got extremely business focused and kind of lost sight of the cause and the mission. And at that point, the fire kind of went out.
Right.
Of the team, and we had to do a re-emphasizing of the mission and the purpose and the cause, and then that reignited the fire. And so I think it's just about getting people confident in the mission and the purpose, and in a space where you're confident with all three invitations on all three doors, meaning that you can ask them fluently, but you still know at the heart what you're about and what we're trying to do.
So I was talking to a guy who I know had a money need. He is extraordinarily healthy guy, and didn't really need, didn't need any of DoTerra's products to necessarily help his health, right? Mm-hmm. But I approached him about the business, and so I started with door number 3. And when I did that, it was interesting because what happened was that I've been working with him now for over a year, and it's kind of been this on again, off again thing where I've been like, hey, are you gonna do this? Yeah, I'm gonna do this, and there'd be spurts of excitement, and then followed by periods of frustration, and all those things. And then he called me up the other day, and he said, there's this one gal that we taught a class to a year ago who's been using the products for a year, and it's revolutionized her health. And she had some pretty major health issues before. And he goes, and she is so excited she wants to be Diamond because of the difference that it's made in her life. Well, when we had that conversation, he said, Seth, now I get it. I know what you were talking about when you said how rewarding this can be when you help people with their health. And now he's completely on board and has been showing an incredible amount of a consistency in his excitement level because of the fact that he's because of that. You know what I mean? Because he's had that type of experience. Okay, so let me then say, okay, I think we've explored this pretty heavily about when and why, but let's talk about how. How do you lead with door number 3, and in particular, what do you do? Do you hop right into a business overview, or what? What do you do? And I'm. This is mainly for the diamonds and platinums on the call. So if you're a diamond or platinum, raise your hand. While we're waiting for that, let me just tell you what I do. When I'm leading with door number 3 and someone wants to see it, what I do is I actually have a couple of oils there. In particular, I like Breathe, I like Peppermint, I like Deep Blue. I like things that have a pretty fast impact, like, you know what I mean? And then what I do is I get into the book. I will show them either one of the essential oil books, and where we go in there and I just show them the breadth and depth of essential oils, what they can do, what their capacity is, what they've, and then we can get in and start looking up different health goals and seeing what kind of regimens we can put in place for people with different types of health goals. And by doing that, they get and that takes about 5 minutes for me to just go cover to cover through the book, showing them the breadth and depth of the essential oils, what they can do. And then once they do that, and by the way, and I'm letting them sample Peppermint, Breathe, Deep Blue, those types of things while we're going through the book. And then I'll go right into a business overview. And I found that that's extremely effective because it gives them, it shows them, okay, I don't know everything about essential oils now, but I know that there's a lot of substance to this, and we'll get to that again another day when I take them through the class. But now that you've got that understood and how powerful the product is, let's talk about the opportunity. So that's how I've been able to lead with door 3 in a manner that gets really, really good results. In fact, if I do that, I can't say that I have anybody that doesn't want to actually do it. So anyway, with that said, let's go ahead and open this up. How do you lead with door 3 when you do lead with door 3? Virginia, did you have a comment on this?
Oh, yes, I'm not Simon. I was just making sure you could actually, I could hear what you were saying when you weren't sure. But I appreciate you explaining what things to use in order when they're asking for the business and you ask them questions like the was explained to us, so that I see how to listen for openness. I'm still learning how that works.
That's probably a great topic in itself.
Maybe we could even go there.
Right.
Frankly, I mean,
right.
It's so
really
important.
the core of the call.
It's so relevant to this conversation that it's worth talking about. Let's just see here. We have an 801 area code. I just unmuted your line. What is your comment on this? 801 area code, just that ends in.
Okay, I got it. Is it me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What's your name?
Hey, this is Brenda Petru. How are you?
Good.
Linda, who?
Brenda.
Okay.
Brenda with the B.
Oh, okay, good.
Petru. So I have a question on this. I don't have a lot to offer to the conversation, but next week am teaching a class to a bunch of college kids, and our plan is to lead with the business. We're going to talk oils, but we're going to kind of do a why doTERRA, why now, right after leadership. I would love input.
Oh, I got a couple things to maybe
Of how to do that, like how.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the question is how to do it, right?
Right. Well, here's the thing. This is
What do you suggest that we? I mean, there's so much information. There's so many products. So when you're leading with the business, you want to give them enough product to see why it's a cool thing. But the reason I wanted to lead with the business with this particular group is because they're pretty healthy. They're college kids.
Right.
We need to talk about the healthy stuff that comes from using the oil, particularly thinking outside of themselves, but more into their markets of influence, their parents, their hometowns, that kind of stuff. This is what I'm thinking, but this is Mastermind, right? I mean, teach me.
That's awesome. I really like I like college kids, and one of the ways there's a couple of them. Like I've talked to a number of different college kids on, especially one-on-ones, and one of the downsides is they don't have money. As a group or a segment, they're basically broke. Yeah, we got a college kid working with us now. He's
Yeah.
But generally, money is not a big part of their equation. It doesn't mean that they don't have money or access to money, but as a group, they're as a demographic, it's not an ideal space for that. But one of the things that a lot of college kids say to me is that they need to get a job, and so what I've done is I've done a little per hour breakdown of what you actually make. So I'll ask college kids how much money do they expect to make when they get a job, and in most entry level positions for young people are going to be minimum wage to $10 an hour, and so if they say those numbers, then I say, well, imagine for a minute that you had a doTERRA business, and that your job was to spend 2 hours a day on your business, And then I said, so the 5 days a week, so you have 10 hours a week dedicated to this business that you're going to build. And so your job for 2 hours a day is to do these things. At the end of the week, you're going to spend those 2 hours teaching an essential oil introduction class. And then for the other 4 days, for 2 hours a day, you're going to find people to attend that class. And so basically that means that you have 2 hours a day to make 2 invitations. So now if you do the math on that, I've done 2 invitations a day, and and that means that 1 will accept, right? So I invite 2, 1 will probably accept. So by the end of the week, I have 4 people committed to come to a class, and so 3 will show up, right? So now I have 3 people. If I have 3 people in that class, 1 is likely to enroll. And so then I start doing the math based on the Fast Start bonus. So now I say, if you enroll someone with a family physician kit, then you will probably get a check in the mail for around $18. And then I ask them, how much money did you make per hour? And so that comes back to, basically, if we were just rounding it up, $2 an hour. Okay, so for $2 an hour, I've gotten 1 enrollment at the end of the week. So now I start into the next week, and I do the same thing, except this time I sell a natural solutions kit. And then I say, how much per hour now have I generated? Because a natural solutions kit would be about an $80 or $90 check, or if we rounded that up, now we're at close to $8 to $10 an hour. And so now they're starting to see it as a line. And then I say, well, if we, I keep advancing, and I say, well, what if one of those months that you kept going, you sold a diamond kit, and now you get a $400 check, and now you're earning $50 an hour, or say, whatever the math. And then I take, say that was a 4-week course that it told me to sell 1 diamond kit, and I sold 1 natural solutions kit, and then I sold 2 family physician kits after a whole month of doing that activity. Then I bring the dollars per hour back, and they start to see where they're earning $15 to $20 an hour just by creating a team, which eventually becomes residual. And then I span it out. Then I show the picture out across a year, and pretty soon you start seeing a substantial picture that they can't even recreate with a job.
Right. I think that when I'm talking to that age group, let me just actually make one comment here in regards to this before I talk about how to address that group. But I was talking to one of the major leaders in the company that has a lot of diamonds on her team, and she mentioned that they went through and looked at all of the attributes of the people who hit diamond on her team, and basically she goes, most everybody that is a diamond on my team has at least 5 of these 7 characteristics. One of them was that they were a woman. I thought that was interesting, which totally...
Fortunately, we blew that out.
Yeah, fortunately, Rod and I have proved that has to be true. But you don't have to be all 7, just 5 or 6 of the 7. Number 2 is that they were already into natural things before they were introduced to essential oils. That
so they
helps.
were open to natural wellness. Yeah.
Number 3 is that they had a money need, which obviously these college students have a money need.
Right, and we certainly did.
Yeah. Number 4, they have a supportive spouse. Their spouse supports them in this. Mm-hmm. Number 5 is that they are influencers. They have a lot of influence in their community, right? So they host a class and people show up because they have that kind of influence. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is that they were between the ages of 35 and 45. And
they also had an entrepreneurial background,
and they had business experience, some sort of business experience. And the only reason I bring these things up is because I've thought about that comment from her for quite a while. Like, why is it that the ages of between 35 and 45 seem to do so well in this? And I think that there's a couple of issues when you're dealing in particular with college-age students. Number 1, they're going to school to haul buckets, and they're excited about it.
Right, they're paying for it.
Right. They're like, they can't wait to get their degree so that they can go and start hauling buckets in the field that they're in. And it isn't until you're about 35 where you're just like, this sucks.
Right. You know, your muscles get sore from hauling buckets.
Right. Like you're like, oh man, if I had any idea what I was getting myself into, right? And so there's a lot of they have no idea what's about to hit them, and so they're excited. They're still excited.
Right. People in that age group have big networks too. When you're 35 to 40, you've generally matured to an age where you really do know a lot of people.
Well, and this is the other thing that I actually think is probably bigger than that. Mm-hmm. And that is that when you're in between those ages, you can mentor and influence people of every age range.
Right.
Like the people in their senior years aren't looking at you like you're a young punk, and the people that are younger than you think that you're wise and that they want to be like you in some regards.
Right.
And so it's kind of like I've noticed that and I remember because when I was in my 20s, I was always so frustrated that people wouldn't listen to me.
That happened to me when I was in 30s because I looked like I was in my teens.
Right. And a lot of it is just the way people perceive you. And so just kind of keep that in mind as you're working with this group. It takes someone who is very wise beyond their years that sees that, man, I want to do that. Also, the business overview will actually lead you through that kind of the discussion you should have with them. In particular, if you discuss the concept of the pipeline versus buckets, that is such a powerful concept. You got to explain that. And then the very beginning, when you go through the bullet points of why you would want to choose doTERRA to be your pipeline, hopefully they'll be able to see that's a major thing. I'd also make sure that you sample Breathe or peppermint oil in that group, or maybe even wild orange. Right. It's a cheap oil, it's an inexpensive oil, and it also gives a great impact. Right. Okay, we only have about 6 minutes left on this call, so I want to move on. But Angie Archibald, you have your hand raised. What is your comment?
Hey, wow! I'm in a car wash now, so that's fun.
We can't even hear it.
To get over where it's quiet. So now that I'm a gold, I can pay for someone else to wash my car.
Sweet.
So
Congrats.
that's exciting.
By the way, congrats on that.
That is awesome.
Well, thanks. Okay, so the comment I wanted to make, I had a couple of thoughts that when you were talking about like when do you share, when do you lead with door number 3? I think you can't lead with door number 3 until you realize it's a real thing. Like, until you have evidence, or at least you feel that your business is legit. I think in the beginning, people, for whatever reason, they start doing it. They need a little bit of evidence. Mm. And the sooner that you can either achieve a rank or borrow somebody else's as a reality, or at least feel that you're a diamond or you're a blue diamond, and you know deep in your soul that you're going to achieve that. It's hard to offer it to somebody else with a surety.
I think that is one of the wisest. I think what you just said right there, Angie, is probably the best advice we got on the entire call.
And this morning, Jennifer and I were driving down the road. There's a beat up car, and it says it basically had an income sign in the window. And we were laughing because a few years ago I'd come out of my office and there was a beat up pickup. I mean, like a old rusted out truck, and it had hand painted in the windows, "Let me teach you how to make $10,000 a month." And we just stood and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And so, man, Angie, what a fantastic point.
Oh yeah. Okay, keep going. And what else?
Okay, so I feel like for me, you said, well, how do you lead with the business? I've been lucky because my own brother has been ahead of me in the business, right? So you know what's funny is I have a copy of the Leadership magazine where they were featured a couple of years ago when they hit diamond, and it's always with me. Rod said he always has his business overview with him, and I always do too, so that made me feel good about my MO here, but I always have that edition with me as well, and I open it up at the beginning of almost every class. And when I say, this is how I got into the oil. This guy right here, when, he was using them, I thought he was an idiot. But look at him, he's in this magazine. And and let me tell you what the average income for a blue diamond or a diamond is. And people go, what?
Right.
Because he's my brother. If it was some random person in a magazine that they have no relation to,
it doesn't make the same impact. And so that's how I do it. So if you don't have somebody close to you that does it, you can always say, this is my upline, and here's what, their average ranked income is, and this is real, and this is, and by the way, I'm going to be a Blue Diamond by December of this year. Just tell us.
Yeah.
So, you have to have this strength that you're doing it, because otherwise leading with the opportunities, it just doesn't come across the same way. But I did have one more thought, and then I'll leave you alone.
Okay.
We were doing a video chat with some people in Peru last weekend and we're not even open in Peru, right? So it's like, you lay it out there like, hey, this is how it's going to look, and it's going to be really hard because you're not open, and it's going to cost more money, and da-da-da-da-da. And they were asking a lot of questions about the business and about shipping and commissions and blah, blah, blah. And at one point in the conversation, this was a 4-way call with Bryant and myself and the person between us, I just had to say, okay, stop. Everybody stop. Because this business opportunity is amazing, but I don't want to talk about it anymore. I think we're forgetting that you don't even have oils yet. We haven't even sent them oils yet. And I want, and people, I want you to get some oils, and I want you to open them up, and I want you to share them with every single person that you know. And because your number one job right now, let Bryant and I figure out shipping, let us teach you little by little about the business, but you're getting too excited about the business and you don't even have oils yet, and I want you to know what these oils can do for your family and for the people that you love in Peru. And I have never felt this, like the Spirit of God come to me in a video conference before. But the man in the room, in Peru, in Lima, he hadn't said a word the whole time. And he said, he raised his, he said, I want to say something. And in Spanish, of course, and I don't understand most of it, but they translated for me. He got choked up a little bit, and he said, thank you for saying that, because my thought was, he was feeling like we were talking too much about the business, and he wasn't sure he was ready for that. But when the Spirit of God told me to say, please focus on the oils and we'll figure everything else out, his heart was touched, and he said, that's why I'm going to do this business with you, because of what you just said, because I want to help my people and with the oils. And then I said, to close the call was, because the oils are so amazing, the business is too, and we'll learn that as we go. So it was like this whole circle of business, oils, and they're both beautiful.
And they both need each other.
Without the other.
Yeah, they both need each other. That's right.
Right.
Thank you. You know what? You just freaking killed it there. I just want you to know you summed up the call in an amazing way.
Right. I think that one little point that I want to add to her, to what Angie said there, and that's when you have the rank, you have some credibility. So if you are going to sell the business, when you have an upline leader coming to town, that's a real great opportunity to sell the business potential. Meaning, if I'm coming to town, or Seth's coming to town, or Bryant, or David Ellis, or Katie Glasgow, or any major rank holders, any of our diamonds are coming to town, man, that's an opportunity to say, hey, come and listen to somebody.
Put your people in front of that meeting for sure.
And I just have to echo what Angie said there. What a fantastic vote of wisdom of just, it's really the mission that drives the opportunity.
Can I let me actually just end the call with just a couple thoughts that I have as a result of what Angie mentioned. There is incredible power in when, like we were talking about, when do you lead with door 3? I agree wholeheartedly that you can start to lead with door 3 when you know this is going to be you. When the opportunity, when you believe completely. And that doesn't mean that you could be an executive. You could be just getting started and lead with door 3 if your belief level is so contagious that when you do lead with it, people are automatically open to following you because of the confidence that you have. We talk about certainty, clarity, and confidence. If you're certain with what you're about to accomplish, if you're clear in the direction that you're going, and you have great clarity in what you're trying to accomplish, and you're confident that you're going to hit it, then that opens up doors. That opens door 3. Now, obviously, it's very easy for the people who have commented on this call to lead with door 3 because we have, fat paychecks that like basically kick in doors. Where people might be open to us, where they may not be open to you. But I want to make this more about you. And that is but that doesn't mean that you can't lead with door 3 when it's appropriate. And that happens when you believe in such a manner that people start to inquire. And one of the ways that you can actually have that type of, where you can get people to inquire and to be open to door 3 is pay attention to your language. You believe you're going to do this when people say, hey, what do you do for a living? And even if you are a dentist, even if you are a therapist, even if you are a teacher, you go, well, I actually do doTERRA as a job. Oh, and I do dentistry on the side. I mean, that
was a big shift for me when I actually said I'm a distributor with doTERRA, and that became my core of what I told people I do.
And even when I stopped trying to beat around the bush,
right?
Like, oh, I do something. It's like I'm a successful distributor in doTERRA.
Right.
And they go, and by the way, you can say that whatever rank you want to say it. Mm-hmm. I'm a successful distributor in doTERRA when people ask me what I do. And instead of going, well, I do this and this, and well, I kind of do this doTERRA thing on the side, just so you know, most of you live in that wording. I lived there for a long time, and it never gets someone to say, hey, tell me more about it. And so just realize that that's kind of where you need to go on that. But we're a little bit over time. We appreciate all of you being on the call today and making this call a success. And we wish you the best of luck with your business.